Hello, CST 110 team. Have you started thinking about your informative speech topic? When you're reviewing news through the media, what topics appeal to your interest? What topics do you enjoy researching? And above all, what topics are going to appeal to your CST 110 audience members? In today's video lecture on selecting and researching your speech topic, we will examine the 5 canons of rhetoric so that we understand the unique stages of the speech writing process. Specifically, we're going to address the first 2 stages in today's lecture as we prepare to ultimately select our final informative speech topic and kick off with the researching unit for next week. Towards the end of this presentation, I will present 2 review questions that I will ask you to respond to so you receive credit for listening to this video lecture. As you review the content in this lecture, make sure that you have a Word document open or a sheet of paper with a pen or pencil ready to take notes so you're able to correctly respond to the review questions. If at any point during this video lecture you have any questions or concerns, remember you are welcome to email me and I will address your questions as soon as possible. Now let's go ahead and kick off our first video lecture for today on selecting and researching your speech topic. In today's video lecture, our specific focus items will include the following. I will kick off by talking about announcements and remote learning. As I stated before the break, there was a high chance that we would transition to remote learning. And so this is a new classroom experience for us all. At this point, we will not be meeting face-to-face, so we're just simply changing the channel of instruction. The material will be presented either through a video lecture or we'll talk about synchronous learning, which means virtual meetings held on Thursdays at 12:30 p.m. I'll give you a brief tutorial on where to access the virtual classroom in just a moment. Then we will get to the bulk of the information by starting off with distinguishing informative speaking from persuasive speaking and reminding ourselves what are the canons of rhetoric. After that, we will discuss purpose and thesis statements so that we understand what is the difference between these 2 statements and get ready to write our own purpose and thesis statements in the upcoming week. The next section will cover the arrangement step, and this will cover researching your speech, including what is the difference between sources and supporting materials, and how do they tie into my speech? At the end of our presentation, we will address ethics and APA formatting. If you recall in week 2, we talked about ethics and how to demonstrate ethical behavior within the classroom. The same expectations will be held in the upcoming weeks as we transition to remote learning and prepare our presentations. For this reason, I will briefly share some tips to help you as you cite your sources in APA format. And then at the very end of the presentation, I will give you some guidelines in regards to the online activities for the upcoming week. Again, if you have any questions on the materials in this video lecture, please make sure you send those questions to me via email. Now let's go ahead and move forward to the announcements and what does remote learning look like for CST 110. Well, as a reminder, before we went on spring break, we hosted Multicultural Week at the Woodbridge campus. I did see that some of you were able to assist us by either bringing a food dish to the event or volunteering as well. So if you volunteered, you brought a food dish, or you wore your cultural attire for the event, then please make sure that you send proof of attendance via email by no later than Friday, March 20th at 11:59 p.m. Upon receiving this confirmation note, I will go ahead and enter 10 bonus points into the gradebook for you. On the other hand, if you were able to attend the speaker event at the end of February for Black History Month, then please make sure that you send that summary to me by no later than Friday, March 20th at 11:59 p.m. so you're able to earn 5 additional bonus points. Now let's talk a little bit more about remote learning. What do office hours look like? Well, office hours on campus are usually hosted for students who need any questions answered or guidance on assignments, or who just want to stop by and say hi or even talk about your upcoming class schedule. I will still do the same for our classroom, but I am switching the hours to the evenings. So our virtual office hours will be held on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Remember, this is not a mandatory time for you to attend. Instead, if you have any questions regarding your online activities or anything else, perhaps you want to practice your speech with me, then you can drop by during these hours. That's what we call it, the walk-in hours, where you can simply drop by and I will assist you. Now, if these hours and days just don't coordinate with your schedule, then please send me an email at least 24 to 48 hours in advance with days and times that meet your scheduling needs, and we'll go ahead and set an appointment just for you. In a few moments, I will teach you how to access a virtual office hour session so you're able to drop by on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. The next item, what does the online classroom look like? Well, let me go ahead and travel back to our Canvas page so that we're able to identify key elements in the online classroom. So if you take a look at our online classroom right now, you'll see the same page that we have been exploring for the past couple of weeks. We have our to-do list on the right-hand side, which will be critical as we transition to online learning because it serves as reminders for what is due. As you see, I have sent various announcements regarding what does remote classroom look like, when virtual office hours are starting, and the upcoming assignments that are due for this week. So please continue to look at this to-do list so you understand what assignments you need to complete. Any assignments that have points listed are the ones that are going to be graded. Similar to the previous weeks, I hope you will continue to monitor the announcements page. From now on, I will go ahead and remind you about the virtual meetings taking place, and I will also remind you about the online assignments that are due in the upcoming weeks. If you were able to access the announcements posted last week and earlier this week, then you'll notice that I sent details about what remote learning looks like for our class. If we scroll to this announcement, you will see the tentative schedule listed here. And by clicking on this link, it will take you to a document that looks just like this. This is our new tentative schedule for the spring semester. You'll notice that we still have the usual meeting date that we would have met in person, and now I have transferred the reading assignments here, so we understand what chapters we must read before viewing the video lecture or attending the virtual meetings. The video lecture will be indicated here, and if we have a virtual meeting, then I'll indicate that information for the corresponding week. Most importantly, we'll want to look on the right-hand side where we have the online activities listed. And for this week, you will notice the video lecture on Canvas should be watched by Saturday, March 21st. We have extended this due date because it is taking a couple of hours for videos to process on Zoom, which is our recording tool. So I want to make sure I give all students enough time to watch the content in this video lecture. After that, you'll want to make sure you complete the audience analysis survey and discussion board number 2, which was our group discussion, by Friday, March 20th. Your peer feedback will be due on Saturday, March 21st, and all activities are available through Module 3. Once you have completed these activities, you're ready to kick off Week 7, which we would have met on March 26th. So before you attend the virtual meeting next Thursday at 12:30 p.m., you will want to read Chapter 14 and review the content on APA formatting. I will include a web link so that we become familiar with APA formatting, including a title page and how to cite our sources in a bibliography. So once again, you'll see the reminder here. Our virtual meeting will take place on Thursday, March 26th at 12:30 p.m. And in the following week, we will complete quiz number 3 and our informative speech proposal, which is located in module number 4. Now you'll notice at the bottom of our tentative schedule, we have tentative in-person meetings. The reason we have indicated this as tentative is because we're not sure if we will be returning back to campus for the remainder of the semester. In the event we do not return, then these tentative in-person meetings will be converted to virtual meetings, and we'll continue to meet virtually in our online classroom at 12:30 p.m. so that we can practice our communication skills with our peers. Furthermore, if you are unable to attend the in-person meetings because, let's say, your laptop isn't working, then I will share the phone number so that you can still access the virtual classroom through your phone by calling in and receiving credit for joining us during that class meeting. If for some reason your phone is not working, your internet isn't working, or you're feeling sick that day and that same time that we host the virtual meetings, please remember I will always record the virtual lectures so you are able to watch them during your own time and still receive credit for them. If you have any questions regarding the new tentative schedule, please let me know. Otherwise, let's go back to our Canvas page. Key elements on the announcement here also include the analysis paper. So if you recall at the beginning of the semester, I announced that one of your assignments included analyzing a live public speaker. Now, due to the recent events and to make sure that we stay safe and engage in social distancing, I want to make sure that you understand you're not required to attend a live speaking event. If you did attend a live speaking event, you're welcome to write your paper on this experience. Sample live speaking events may have included attending Mass or listening to a sermon, attending a comedy club, attending a town hall meeting, or even attending a meeting at work where your supervisors are sharing information to your coworkers. You may write your paper based on that unique experience. If you were not able to watch a live speaker, then you have two options. You can go ahead and examine a TED Talk, and we've included the web link here, or you can examine a speech from an online speech bank called American Rhetoric. Both of these sources will be helpful in finding credible speakers that you can analyze for this analysis paper. As a reminder, your analysis paper is now going to be due online on April 9th at 11:59 p.m. So please make sure you mark your calendars that April 9th at 11:59 p.m. you must submit your analysis paper. And we'll go over this assignment in further details in the upcoming week. You'll notice I have also included a reminder about virtual office hours and contact information, and I'd like to reiterate this final reminder. If at any point in the upcoming weeks you are feeling ill or a family member is ill and you must take care of them, then please notify me as soon as possible, and we will make arrangements for you to turn in your assignments in a timely manner. On another note, if you do not have internet access at home and that is an obstacle for you to submit your assignments, then please let me know again as soon as possible so that we can make arrangements to figure out how you can submit your assignments and successfully complete this class. My goal is to make sure this transition into the online learning experience is as seamless as possible so that we're all able to work together, continue engaging with our classmates, and overall learn in a Oh, we had a little glitch there. So overall, the experience is to, again, make sure that we continue the engagement with our classmates and overall make sure that we're learning the course objectives in the classroom, including building our interpersonal relationships, our small group dynamics, and practicing public speaking. Now, if you continue into the modules tab, you will notice the following item. We have the virtual classroom here, right underneath the Canvas Guide for Students. So if you need a refresher on some of the tools that we have been using or setting up your account to make sure you're receiving the notifications, including announcements to your email, you're welcome to review the videos listed here. The most important module that has been added is the virtual classroom. And you'll notice that by clicking on this tab here, you're able to access the office room from Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. When you go ahead and click on the virtual office room, it'll go ahead and give you a launching signal. And that launching signal will indicate that Zoom is trying to turn on to your computer and log you into the virtual classroom. You will see the same tool available for when you are trying to join our virtual meetings. When you click on the virtual meeting here, you'll go ahead and simply click the link on top and then click on Open Zoom Meetings. When you click on Open Zoom Meetings, you will see a window that pops up that says the host needs to enter the classroom first. I am the host for your virtual meeting, so as soon as I open up the classroom, you will be entered to join with your classmates as well. So again, make sure that you do access this tab so that you're able to continue engaging with your classmates on a weekly basis and learning the information for that week. The next item includes module number 3, which is the module we are working on for the upcoming week. Again, you'll want to make sure you're watching this video lecture and completing the review questions by Saturday, March 21st so that you earn 5 points for your attendance. When you click on this tab, you will see that it's asking you to submit the response to the 2 questions by clicking on Submit Assignment. Similar to journal activities, you will simply click on Submit Assignment and enter your responses into the chat box. Once you are ready to submit your assignment, you will simply click Submit Assignment, and that response will be recorded in the gradebook. The last items to review on the Modules tab is at the very bottom. If we continue scrolling past the online activities, we will see guidelines for the analysis paper, guidelines for your informative speech, and information on PowerPoint slides. So if you'd like to refer back to the PowerPoint slides we are using in our virtual meeting, you're welcome to do so and use those slides to help you prepare for quizzes and exams. The last 2 tools that I'd like to share with you on Canvas for our page include tutor.com, which will help you as you prepare your analysis paper and your speech outline. Remember I stated Communication Studies does not have a tab on tutor.com, but the tutors did mention you can click on English and EMF so that they can help you with revising your speech outline and your essay for your analysis paper. So make sure you do use this tool to help you with the writing of your assignments. The library resource will also be a key tool to use, especially as we prepare to research our speech. So remember, you are able to receive assistance via phone, email, and the 24/7 chat button so that you can speak to a librarian and they can assist you with finding resources. Otherwise, you can start with the research process this week by clicking any of these tools or sources that are available to you. Now, you may be wondering, what happens if we don't return back to campus? How are we going to record our presentations? Well, if you look back at the tentative schedule, you'll notice our presentations are set to be delivered towards the end of the semester. So in the event we do return back to campus, we will continue presenting our speeches in a face-to-face setting. However, if we do not return to campus, then we will be using this tool called Studio, which is on the green column right here. Studio is used to record the speeches in an asynchronous or recording it by yourself and simply uploading it onto Canvas. My goal is to present you with 2 options. You may either go ahead and record your speech, similar to what I'm about to do right now. So you will go ahead and design a visual aid in either PowerPoint format, or you can go ahead and have objects during your speech. So if you're teaching your audience members how to prepare a food dish, then you can go ahead and demonstrate the ingredients here in the camera view. If your speech is on something like using Purell, how does Purell hand sanitizer help you, then you can go ahead and demonstrate the object there. Otherwise, you can engage in screen sharing, and I can teach you how to share your PowerPoint slides similar to what you see here with my screen, and then you will turn on your video webcam, and that video will demonstrate right there through the Zoom application. So if you do have a webcam at home, whether it's through your computer or through your phone or a tablet, you are able to use Zoom to record your speech. If you're using a phone, then you won't be able to upload your PowerPoint directly onto the Zoom application. So that will require you to upload it separately. If for some reason you're unable to join us during the synchronous class meetings where the classmates meet in the virtual classroom to present their speeches, then you will use the Studio tool to record it during your own time and simply upload it onto Canvas. So regardless of whether we go back to campus or not, we'll continue preparing our speeches so that we can either deliver them either face-to-face or in the virtual classroom. If you have any questions on this new criteria, then you can go ahead and send me emails. Let's go ahead and turn off the video for now and go back to our presentation. Now it's time to examine how to prepare for our informative speech. So here's a brief speech overview. And if you were able to watch the video lecture, The First Steps of Public Speaking, then this is going to be a recap of the information. Your speech must be informative in nature, which means that you are here to teach us or educate us or pass knowledge to your audience members. We are not here to persuade our audience members. Remember, an informative speech simply gives information, whereas a persuasive speech tries to change your audience members' attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, or values. Now, the informative speech option has two characteristics. We have the ability to inform or the ability to explain. So you will determine if you're here to inform or explain. If you're wondering, what's the difference? Well, informing means that you're teaching the audience about a phenomenon, possibly a topic that they have never heard about. So for instance, if you're teaching on the topic of xenotransplantation, which is when you are transporting organs from an animal to a human, then that would be to inform, especially if the audience has never heard about the topic. On the other hand, if you'd like to explain a topic, then you're updating information about a phenomenon. So your audience members already know background information about this topic. An example of this topic would be something related to the coronavirus, such as how to practice social distancing. This would be a topic that your audience members may have heard about or read articles about online, and now you're providing us with the most recent information. So again, your task is to decide, do you want to inform with the new topic or explain by giving updated information? If you are informing, make sure that you do not use jargon or technical language in your speech. If you do use technical language, then make sure you explain it by using simple language or concrete terms so your audience members understand what you are saying. If you are explaining the speech topic, then remember to use new information that we have not heard about. If you continue to repeat information that we know, then your audience members will lose interest in your speech. Now let's examine the different types of topics. This will be a key element for your discussion board number 2 response. As you prepare your discussion board number 2 response, you will list 5 informative speech topics, and then you will label each topic. So the topics may be an object, a process, an event, or a concept. An object type of speech will be a person, place, or thing. So you may go ahead and talk about a unique city, like traveling to Rome, and things to do in Rome. A process type of speech is going to be a how-to speech, and you're teaching us how to complete a task. And this can be as simple as how to complete a food dish, how to prepare a 2-minute breakfast, or how to manage anxiety, especially when you're getting ready for a job interview. The event type of speech is something that has taken place or will take place in the near future. So this can be referring to a historical event. For instance, a student once delivered a message on the Stonewall riots, and you can go ahead and educate your classmates on the significance of the event, what happened, and what is the impact that it has on our community today. The concept type of topic is an abstract idea, and this can be something like philosophy or religion or even global warming. Notice how the concept topics are abstract or wide with the focus. So if you do choose a concept focus, then you'll want to make sure you narrow it down. For instance, a topic like global warming may ask you to focus on a specific aspect of global warming. For instance, the class may then focus more on air pollution. So then you'll want to focus on air pollution in a unique location. Again, the more narrow you have that speech topic, the easier it'll be to fit within that 5-minute time limit. So on that note, remember your speech must be at least about 5 minutes in length. And if we fall under the time limit or over the time limit, then there will be some points lost for not meeting the time limit. And we'll talk about that when we review the rubric in a few weeks. The next key item to understand is that you will need outside sources for your speech. So unlike your first presentation, which was your me speech, now you'll need to go out and find sources from books, websites, articles, interviews, and so on and so forth. You will need at least 3 to 5 sources for your presentation, and you will need to cite them in APA format. So if you're feeling a little bit like this person down here, don't worry, because we'll teach you some tips to help you understand APA formatting in just a moment. A few minutes ago, I talked about the importance of meeting that 5-minute time limit. Now, if you're a bit concerned about selecting topics or narrowing the topic to fit that time limit, remember to think of the following questions as you brainstorm your list for this week. Number 1, which topics will interest my audience members? We will understand that the audience is the first set of individuals that we must think about when we are preparing our speech. We may be tempted to think about our own interests, but ultimately, our audience members are the receivers of the information. So think about your CST 110 classmates and what topics grab their attention. And then you can consider your own interest, because you do want to find a balance. You want to make sure that you are also interested in your speech topic because you're the one that's researching, writing, practicing, and ultimately deliver that presentation. So you may as well demonstrate passion towards that subject. Third, ask yourself, can I deliver a speech on this topic in 5 minutes without creating information overload? Again, if your topic is too broad, then you may find tons of information and you may feel overwhelmed with the researching and writing process. So remember, narrow that angle, and if you need help with narrowing your speech angle, then let me know. Fourth, ask yourself, do I have enough information to talk about this topic? Sometimes we select topics where we don't have enough information to share with our classmates, and we barely meet the 3-minute time limit. If that's the case, then we may have to look at a different angle towards that topic, or just simply select a different topic altogether. Overall, your focus should be on the angle. What angle will you share about this specific speech topic? I hope these tips will help you as you prepare to brainstorm your speech for this week. So now that we have talked about the invention step, which is narrowing your topic, let's go ahead and review the different canons of rhetoric. So again, this is synonymous with the speech writing process. First, we engage in invention, which is what we're working on this week. Second, we work on arrangement. And in the arrangement step, this is where we go ahead and start the research process to determine which items we will address in a particular order in our speech. So this is where we gather all the facts, the statistics, the testimonies that will become the bulk of our presentation. And again, the reminder here is to find 3 to 5 sources for your speech. After we research our speech, we will start with the style step, which is adapting your language and ultimately writing your informative speech. As you write your speech, you'll want to make sure that you are using unique phrases and words that your audience members will be able to understand. Otherwise, your audience members may lose interest, especially if they have no idea what you're saying. Now, once you're done with the style process, we now have to start working on the nonverbal cues and building charisma in our presentation. So in the delivery step, this is where you will add the nonverbal cues, and I encourage you to add those cues directly into your outline. By thinking about the physical cues like your gestures and facial expressions and vocal cues such as that range in tone, you will be able to write those cues directly into your outline and practice them as you prepare your presentation. So again, that delivery step involves you thinking about how you're going to deliver your speech. And then for the memory step, you'll focus primarily on practicing the presentation. So before you practice, you write the how will you deliver it? And then the memory is taking the information from the style step or your written speech outline and the delivery step or your nonverbal cues to practice 2 to 3 days in advance before you present your presentation either in the classroom or in the virtual classroom. Now, some key due dates for the upcoming weeks include your brainstorming session, and that's discussion board number 2, which is due on Friday, March 20th at 11:59 p.m. Any assignments that are listed here are due at 11:59 p.m. So the next major assignment will be your speech proposal and annotated bibliography, which we will go into further detail later today. That assignment will be due on March 31st. Then we have the speech outline. So you will go ahead and complete a speech proposal, which will help you write your outline, and that outline will be due towards the end of April on April 21st. Now again, a reminder is that in between these assignments, we will still complete our analysis paper, which will be completed either on a speaker you already saw, a TED Talk, or a speaker from American Rhetoric Online Speech Bank by no later than April 9th at 11:59 p.m. Now that we understand the different stages of the canons of rhetoric, and now that we've received an overview of the assignment due dates, let's go ahead and address the arrangement step and a little bit more about audience analysis. How do we go ahead and analyze our audience members? Well, remember, an audience analysis matters because it helps you to connect with your classmates. It helps you determine who exactly are your audience members and what are topics that interest them. So as you are selecting your topic in the upcoming week, I encourage you to use the following techniques from our textbook. We have the techniques of artifacts, and artifacts are items that your classmates may wear or bring to face-to-face meetings. For instance, you may have observed that your classmates were bringing in energy drinks to stay awake during the classroom. Or maybe you notice your classmates talking about how stressed they were with midterms or final exams coming up soon. So if you are looking at artifacts, you may look at specific items that you see your classmates wearing or bringing to class, and that may help you determine what topics to select that meet their interests. On another note, you can use direct observation, and this is where you're using your senses like seeing and hearing to gather similarities among your audience members. So whereas artifacts are looking more at objects, direct observations can look at artifacts and also the verbal messages that you see your classmates sharing. So this week, you'll be receiving feedback from your classmates based on the list of topics that you present, and you can use direct observation to determine what speech topic you will use based on what they're interested in. So for instance, if you see your classmates are interested in learning about how to build good credit, then you can use direct observation to ultimately select your topic. The final way you can go ahead and analyze your audience is by polling them, and this relates to the audience analysis survey that you will complete this week. In that survey, you will find demographic data, which refers to characteristics or categories for our audience members. This will include questions on our income level, on the year that we are in at NOVA, our age group, our ethnicity, or our political affiliation. Now, if we're referring to specific issues that we are passionate about, that will be looking at audience demographics. So this survey will include a mix of both demographic data, which categorizes us into unique groups, and attitudes or psychographics, which helps us understand how do our audience members feel about learning about a particular topic. So keep an eye out for the audience analysis data coming up next week, and this will help you put together your informative speech proposal and ultimately find the best topic for your classmates. In step 2, which will kick off next week, we will focus on the arrangement step. And the arrangement step will require you to think about your specific purpose statement. This statement will answer the why question. Why should your audience members care to listen to your speech? We'll talk more about purpose statements in just a moment. After you write your purpose statement, you will identify your sources. And remember, for your annotated bibliography, you must include a minimum of 5 sources, and that assignment will be due next week. Then you will identify the supporting materials that you find in the sources. The supporting materials are the evidence or the facts, testimonies, examples that you gather to help your audience members understand the central focus for your speech. So you must ask yourself, how can I help my audience members learn about the topic? What is the best information to give them so they understand how this topic connects to them and the overall central focus of my presentation? We will give you more tips on the arrangement step later in this presentation. First, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about specific speech purposes and how are they distinguished from general purpose statements and a thesis statement. A general purpose statement is going to represent what you aim to do in that presentation, and it can be something as simple as saying to inform or to persuade. Think of the general purpose as your topic sentence. For instance, if a student is presenting on the dangers of energy drinks, then their general purpose would be to inform the audience about the dangers of energy drinks. Plain and simple. The specific purpose statement goes a few steps further because this is going to identify what you will talk about and, above all, what you hope the audience will take away from it. Why should they care to learn about the dangers of energy drinks? How does this topic relate to them? And how will this information help them in the long run? Those are some questions that you can answer as you prepare your specific purpose. Once again, why should they care? How does this topic relate to them? And how will this information help them in the long run? By sharing that specific purpose statement early in your introduction, you're immediately able to hook your audience members and pique their interest. The thesis statement differs from the purpose statement because the specific purpose focuses on why and how, and the thesis statement focuses on what. What is the central idea of your message? What will your audience members learn through your presentation? So if we're looking for examples of specific purpose statements, let's go ahead and revisit the example of the dangers of energy drinks. A potential specific purpose statement would be, over the past weeks, I noticed several of my peers in CST 110 consumed energy drinks, ranging from Red Bull to Monster energy drinks, but they informed me they were unaware of the effects this beverage may have on their bodies. So through this specific purpose statement, the speaker went ahead and identified that they used artifacts and direct observation to learn that their classmates are unaware of the dangers associated with consuming energy drinks. The thesis statement again focuses on that central idea, and it may sound something like this. Energy drinks have dire physiological effects on our body, including our cardiovascular system and neurological system. So in this statement, the speaker is identifying the central idea or the core focus of their presentation. If you have any questions with writing a thesis statement, please let me know. And if you need assistance with writing your purpose statement, let me know as well. These two statements will become a part of your speech proposal that will be due on March 31st. If you're still confused on purpose statements, then here are some tips to help you. 1, remember to write one sentence. Similar to a thesis statement, your purpose should consist of one sentence, and it can include clauses or conjunctions, such as words like and, so, or but. You can connect two ideas by using a conjunction as you are writing your one specific purpose statement. If you're writing a specific purpose paragraph, then that will eat up too much of your speech time. So again, focus on one sentence. Second, your purpose statement must be declarative in nature. In other words, it must clearly say something about your audience's connection to the topic. The audience members should understand how this topic connects to them after listening to the statement. And third, as you research your topic, remember your purpose statement may evolve with your speech. Perhaps you initially intended to focus on the dangers associated with energy drinks, and then you find an interesting article that talks about the benefits of energy drinks, and you find that it's a credible source and the information is consistent. Then your speech angle might take a different approach, so you may evolve or change that purpose statement. So again, that purpose statement can continue to change until you complete the research process. Altogether, remember to focus on the audience. Why should they care about this speech? So at this point, we have completed the invention step and started some of the points in the arrangement step. Now let's go ahead and discuss, how do we research our speech topic? What are the sources, the supporting materials that we can use, and how do we format them in APA format? This information will be useful as you prepare your assignments for the upcoming week. So if you'd like to take a moment to pause, you can do so and work on your assignments that are due on Friday. Otherwise, let's talk a little bit more about how to research your final speech topic. To do so, we have to distinguish between sources and supporting materials. Sources are where you gather your supporting materials for your speech. So this can include points or resources that you look at when you would go to the library or when you access the web pages. Examples of sources are going to include websites, books, journal articles, magazines, interviews, YouTube videos, etc. There are a variety of sources as you research your speech topic, but we must make sure they are credible. so we'll cover credibility in just a moment. How many sources do you need for your speech? Well, remember, you need at least 5 for your annotated bibliography, and the ultimate hope is that you will use at least 3 of those sources for your speech outline. So think for about 5 for now, and then we'll narrow down which supporting materials and sources help with the central idea of our speech. On the other hand, supporting materials are the evidence or the information that you use to support your main points and strengthen both your thesis and purpose statement. So this is the information that you research that ultimately connects to your main points and the central idea of your presentation. Examples of supporting materials are going to include facts, statistics, different types of examples, such as brief examples, real examples, extended examples, and hypothetical examples. We may also look at narratives as well and testimonies. Before we distinguish peer and expert testimonies, I'd like to share with you what are the differences among examples. A real example is an example that is actually factual. So this has actually taken place in real life. You may go ahead and refer to a personal narrative or someone else's narrative as you present that example. A hypothetical example is an example that is fictional or has not taken place in real life. You may use hypothetical examples in your speech, but remember, we don't want to fabricate details that are extreme. Brief examples can be both real and hypothetical, but they make a quick point and can be effective at any point in your presentation. And extended examples are going to take time to develop because there's a lot of details that are involved. So this can consist of storytelling in your presentation, but you must be aware that it may eat up the time in your speech. So for this particular presentation, I do encourage you to use the brief examples. You can use real and hypothetical, and if you must use an extended example, then please be aware of how much time it's going to take up in your presentation. Now, peer and expert testimonies are fantastic supporting materials to integrate in your speech, especially if you're able to interview someone who has experience with your topic. Let's say, for instance, you're interested in presenting about student resources available on Nova Woodbridge, specifically the birdhouse or our food pantry. In this case, you can gather 2 interviews and you would get either a peer or expert testimony. The peer testimony would come from a non-expert or an ordinary individual who has an opinion or a story related to the topic. The expert testimony is going to come from someone who has credibility and experience related to the topic. So a specific example of a peer testimony might be someone who has visited the birdhouse or food pantry and received items from the food pantry. And you may talk about the impact this service has to the student's life. On the other hand, the expert testimony might come from the dean of students or the student life coordinator, 2 individuals who have direct experience of working with the birdhouse and can provide you with data regarding how many students visit the birdhouse and the overall mission of this food pantry serving our community. So if you are able to gather interviews, you can do them in a web chat form. You can go ahead and email them to do the interview, or you can set up an interview via the phone, and these details will help to build your speech. As you prepare to look up the guidelines and supporting materials for your presentation, remember to have a balance between the types of supporting materials. What this means is we don't want to listen to only facts or statistics or stories in your presentation. This relates back to ethical speaking. If you recall, everyone has a unique learning style. Some of us prefer to learn by listening to factual information, while others learn best with listening to examples. So you want to make sure you have a balance between facts, examples, narratives, or testimonies in your presentation so that you're able to go ahead and relate to your audience's learning styles. Then make sure you're only using supporting materials that are relevant to your topic and your argument. For instance, if you're talking about the dangers of energy drinks, you may find great information about the dangers of caffeine. However, you'll want to make sure that you're focusing solely on the dangers of energy drinks if that's the central focus of your speech. Third, make sure you stay focused when using examples. As you recall, I said that extended examples are elaborate narratives or stories that you can integrate with your speech. However, if we go ahead and give too much detail, then again, it takes away from the overall material that we share in our presentation. Fourth, choose the type of testimony to be used based on your goal that you are trying to achieve. So again, as you're examining who you can interview, you need to examine as well, how is this going to help my audience members understand the purpose of this speech? The last item, and most importantly, is to use supporting materials ethically. As you recall, when we talked about ethics, some of us mentioned that we need to cite our sources when we are writing papers or when we deliver presentations. Whether we are writing or verbally delivering our speech, we have to make sure we cite our sources. So we'll go ahead and teach you how to cite your sources in APA format and verbally during your presentation in just a moment. For now, let's go ahead and test our knowledge. Which source would probably have the most reliable information about penguins? Would it be an article on the North Pole, the Magic Treehouse Eve of the Emperor Penguin, which is a fictional book, watching a video called An Aggressive Side to Penguins, or an interview with the zookeeper who works with penguins? Take a second to think about your response. If you answered interview a zookeeper who works with penguins, then you're correct. This would be an example of an interview as a source and expert testimony for the supporting material. This is someone who has firsthand experience of working with penguins. Let's examine the other sources. An article on the North Pole would likely not be the most reliable because we don't even know if it's talking about penguins, and our central focus is on penguins. The Magic Treehouse Eve of the Emperor Penguin may give a great quote to integrate in your speech, but remember, this is a fictional piece, so it's not current relevant information. The aggressive side to penguins might be an interesting video to watch, but you've got to ask yourself, where is this video coming from? Is it real or is it fake? Does the creator have experience of working with penguins, or did they simply create a video just for fun? So as you're selecting your sources, these are some questions that you want to ask yourself to determine the best source and supporting materials for your speech. Next, you may be wondering, which websites are most credible? So we've got 5 options here. We have .com, .gov, .org, .net, and .edu. Based on these 5 web links, which one is most credible? If you answered .gov, then you are correct. Now, if we were ranking from least to most credible, it would be as follows. The least credible would be a .net, followed by a .org, followed by .com, and then .edu, and finally .gov. So I hope this information will help you as well as you are analyzing your sources and determining the best source for your presentation. If you do happen to use a .net or a .org or .com website, then you'll want to make sure you're critically analyzing that link to determine whether or not this information is trustworthy. Finally, remember the following databases to help you with your research. If you're interested in gathering unique articles or conference papers, then EBSCOhost is usually a popular tool for students. EBSCOhost is an online system that connects you to databases for specific disciplines. So if you're interested in researching a topic on criminal justice or history, then EBSCOhost will provide you with quick access to the years and years of research. On the other hand, if your topic is focused on education, then you may use ERIC, which stands for Education Resources Information Center. Now, if you're interested on a current event, you want to talk about a current event affecting our national or global community, then you can use LexisNexis. And LexisNexis will go ahead and comb through newspapers and magazine articles that are recent and from around the globe. This is a great tool to use as well and to complement the sources for your speech. If you need help with using any of these sources, remember that you are able to go ahead and receive assistance through the 24/7 chat box, or you can send me an email. Now I'd like to share information about how to know if a source is credible. Remember earlier we talked about the different web links that exist, and while you may be tempted to use a .net or a .org web link, you'll have to ask yourself the following questions. Number 1, how recent is the source? If a source is between 3 to 5 years old, then you can determine that it's pretty recent information. However, if you're using a source that's more than 5 years, let's say you're using a source from the 1970s, then you have to ask yourself, how credible is this information, and why do I want to utilize a source from the 70s? If you want to gather maybe quotes or testimonies that relate to an event back from the 70s, then that source may be helpful, even though it's not as recent. Second, you'll want to determine, is the source or the author in a position to know about information about the topic? When you are examining the source, remember to look for the author's name and their credentials. Who do they work for? Where did they go to school? And above all, what experience do they have with this topic? If you are interviewing someone for your speech, then this will be a critical step to examine. What experience does this interviewee have with my topic? If you are citing an organization, then you may go ahead and look at, how does the organization relate to this topic? What type of work do they do that connects to my speech topic? The other item to examine is whether or not the source is biased. If the source is presenting information as one-sided, then it's time to start looking at additional sources to determine whether or not they are consistent with one another. Furthermore, if the data looks irrelevant, for instance, if you see a survey that states, according to Nova Online, 20% of students are satisfied with hybrid courses. And at the very bottom, it indicates 20 students were surveyed for this study. Then that may be a red flag, because you will notice that 20 students are not representative of Nova Community College. There are more than 20 students on our campus. And as a matter of fact, there are more than 20 students in our class. So again, looking for biased sources that will help you determine whether or not the information is being presented in a fair manner. The last item is to examine the consistency with other sources. In other words, if you were to look for information on other websites or additional sources like a YouTube video or journal articles, then you have to determine whether or not the information is consistent or similar to the other sources that you examine. Let's say that you find an article associated with the dangers of energy drinks, and about 6 sources are meeting the previous criteria for credible sources, but one of the sources contradicts the other 5 sources. If you see that one source is contradicting the other sources, then there's a high probability that that source is inaccurate. So make sure that, again, you're looking at the consistency of information as you determine what is the best source for your presentations. Now that we understand the criteria to examine our sources, let's revisit this concept of ethics. Remember, ethics is going to involve moral and specific moral choices to be made. In other words, this can help us gain the trust from our audience members during our presentation. How do we make sure that we are ethical in our speech? Well, one step is to avoid plagiarism. And plagiarism is when we take someone's ideas and present them as our own. Examples of plagiarism will include global plagiarism. Global plagiarism is when you take an entire piece of someone's work and say that it's your own. So if you are having someone else write your speech, or you simply copy and paste a speech that you found online, then that consists of global plagiarism, and that will result in a 0 for your presentation. Now remember, this presentation is worth 75 points, so you want to make sure you're completing original work. Incremental plagiarism consists of using part of someone's work and not citing the source. So this may consist of you finding a fact or a statistic and you don't give credit to the original source. If that's the case, then you will lose points for your speech outline and the delivery of your presentation because that indicates that you are plagiarizing. Patchwork plagiarism refers to taking ideas from more than one piece of work and putting them together into a new piece of work, and you do not give any credit to sources. So let's say you're looking up the topic on how to build a positive first impression during a job interview. In this case, you may go ahead and gather your first main point from Forbes.com, your second main point from Business Insider, and your third main point from the Department of Labor. If you fail to give credit to these different sources, then you are engaging in patchwork plagiarism. So again, make sure that we cite those 3 unique sources in your presentation and your outline. Finally, patchworking is when we take original sources and change a few words, but it's not enough to paraphrase, and you never give credit to the sources. So maybe you'll add the word "and" to connect 2 sentences, and you say, all right, it's a new sentence. That's considered patchworking. So again, remember to paraphrase the information in your own words or cite appropriately when you're using direct quotations. Now you will note that some of the information in these slides is not in our textbook, but I am sharing information from my public speaking class so that we have a thorough understanding of researching our speech and the ethical components of citing our sources. Next, let's address how do we cite sources in our outline and verbally in our presentation. Remember, when you are citing your sources in your speech, you must cite them 2 ways. Keyword here, 2 ways in our outline. The first way will be in text, which is when you're writing your supporting materials, such as the facts or the testimony or definitions, and then you include an in-text citation directly into your speech outline. It's similar to when you're writing a paper for your history class or English class or psychology class, and you're citing the sources in the paper. You have to do the same for your speech outline. At the end of your outline, you will create a bibliography, and this will go on a separate page. Instead of calling it a works cited page, you'll call it references. Now, when you deliver your presentation, remember that you still need to provide an oral citation for each source because your audience members do not have a copy of your outline. So they don't know where this information is coming from, and they have the right to question what you are saying. When you are listening to your peers' presentations, if they do not cite their sources, again, you as a listener have a right to question, where are you getting this information from? In order to deliver an effective oral citation in your presentation, you must include the following items. Number 1, the author's full name. If there is not a human author, then look for the organization's name. Step 2, what are the author's credentials? Who do they work for? What experience do they have with the subject? If it's an organization, how does this organization connect to the subject? 3, the name of the publication. If you are citing from a journal article or a magazine, then you can go ahead and cite the full name, mention that they are a writer for, and then give us the name of the publication. The Washington Post would be an example. Finally, if you are able to access the year of publication, you can go ahead and integrate the year of publication in your citation so your audience members know how recent the information is. By providing these 4 pieces of information, you're able to build trust within your speech, and your audience members know that you're presenting the information in an honest manner and you are avoiding plagiarism. Now let's look at how do we specifically cite our sources within our outline. When you are citing sources in an outline, you're going to need 2 pieces of information. The first one is the author's last name or the name of the organization. You do not need the author's first or middle name for your citation. Then you will need the date of publication. Now you'll notice this is different from MLA. In MLA format, you just get the author's last name and the page number. APA cares about the date of publication, and we only use the page number if you're quoting directly from a source. So if you're copying and pasting information from a source, then you will use the page number in your citation. Here are some examples for how you can cite your sources in APA format. You can start your sentence by beginning with a citation, such as according to, and indicate the last name. In parentheses, you'll go ahead and enter the year of publication. On the other hand, you can cite your sources at the end of your sentence. So if you're entering the information here, then you would go ahead and include a parentheses. Then you would write the author's last name, which might be Lee. Notice there's punctuation to separate the information, comma, 2010. So again, last name, comma, year of publication. And once again, if you have a quote that you copied and pasted into your outline, then you will give us the author's last name in parentheses, Lee, comma, year of publication, 2010, comma, P for page number with a period and the number, the page number there. So in this example, you will see page 23, and then you close the parentheses. Remember, for your speech outline, you need a minimum of 3 sources. So I expect to see at least 3 of these in-text citations in your outline. If I do not see any citations in the outline, then we can assume that you are plagiarizing, and that will reflect negatively on your grade. So when in doubt, if you have questions on citing, please ask as soon as possible. Now that we understand how to cite sources in APA format within our outline, let me share some tips to help you prepare your references page for your outline. Once again, remember, reference pages are like works cited pages, but they just have a few minor differences. The very top of your paper should say references at the very center. We'll go over this formatting next week as we talk about writing your speech outline. Second, make sure that your sources are in alphabetical order based on the author's last name, the organization's name, or the title of the source. Sometimes we can't find the author of a source, so we simply provide the title in our bibliography. If your sources are longer than 1 line of text, make sure that you enter 5 spaces or click tab for the second, third, fourth line. So remember, after that first line, we have to enter 5 spaces or enter tab to distinguish that this is a continuation of the source. We also want to make sure that as you are citing your sources, each source, with the exception of websites, are going to end with a period. So there is punctuation, including commas and periods involved, and we'll want to look at a resource in just a moment to make sure we are citing our sources correctly. Last items include italics. When do we italicize content? Well, we italicize book titles, website titles, the names of newspapers, the names of magazines, and the names of a journal. Everything else is in regular font. And when we are integrating the title in the citation, you only capitalize. Note this, you only capitalize the first letter of the first word, the first letter of the subtitle, and the first letter of proper nouns. Everything else is lowercase. So if you're still wondering, how do I cite a journal article? How do I cite a book in APA formatting? Well, we've got tools for you. If you have additional APA questions, then remember that you are welcome to go ahead and examine our library handouts available at our Nova Library website. There are various handouts available to help with APA formatting, and I will share this resource with you next week. You're also welcome to contact the librarians through the 24/7 chat box or by emailing our librarians, and I'll go ahead and include their contact info in our Canvas page. Also remember, I am here to help you out. Even though we are completing this class remotely, remember I am still here to answer your questions via email or set up appointments with you. You're also welcome to drop by during virtual office hours, and I'm happy to look through your outline or your speech proposal to examine whether we're moving in the right direction or we need to make some revisions. The final tool, which will be helpful, is this OWL Purdue page that helps you understand how to cite an APA form. Let's go ahead and visit this web page. So if we visit this web page over here, you'll notice that by clicking on the Purdue University link, there are various tools to help you understand how to cite an APA format and how to create your title page as well. When we go to general information, you'll see the title page listed here. And if we scroll all the way to the bottom, It'll give you an overview of how to prepare your title page in APA format. This is different from MLA. In APA, you have to have a separate page for the title. We'll go over this item in further detail, but you can start taking a look over here to get a preview of title pages in APA form. Otherwise, let's look at the sources and how to cite them in APA format. You can click on the reference list like books, and this will teach you how to cite a book in APA format. You can also go ahead and use citation machines provided by Chegg by entering the book title here, and it'll go ahead and give you an automatic generator of how to cite in APA. You'll notice that it does say use citation machines responsibly because of a couple of reasons. First of all, the APA formatting guidelines were updated as of October 2019, so we're still transitioning to the new edition of APA format. As a result, some of the citation machines are not citing the sources correctly. So when in doubt, double check the work by coming here and looking at what information you need in APA format. In the book example, you'll notice we need the author's last name and the initials, period, followed by the year of publication, period, the title of the work in italics, and notice how title is capitalized and capital for the subtitle is capitalized. Then you'll need the publisher's name. So we have a great example here of the author's last name with year of publication, the correct letters capitalized, Alexander the Great. So we have Alexander and Great capitalized because that's a proper noun. And then we still have the information on the publisher's name. If you want to know how to cite a book with multiple authors or a translated version, you can come click here and it will give you information on how to do so. We also have information on electronic sources, including websites. So this gives you information on how to cite the website and what content you need for each website. So again, I encourage you to look through this tool as you cite your sources, both for your annotated bibliography and your speech outline. Well, class, we're reaching the end of our presentation. So what questions do you have? Do we understand the brainstorming process? Do we understand the informative speaking requirements? Do you have any questions on sources versus supporting materials or how to cite an APA format? If you have any final questions, then go ahead and email me at jclopez@nvcc.edu. You're also welcome to stop by during virtual office hours next week on Tuesday and Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. What's coming up in the upcoming week? Well, let's go ahead and examine your reading assignment. We have to make sure we read Chapter 14, Organizing Your Presentation, and view the APA Formatting web link. Continue reviewing the following 2 items. Remember to look at the informative speech guidelines, and in the upcoming week, remember to look at the audience analysis results. We want to make sure you complete the audience analysis results so that you can go ahead and determine how can we adapt our speech to our audience members. Next important point, to earn credit for listening to this lecture, which is 5 points, please answer the following 2 questions by Saturday, March 21st. Note, we did add an extra day so that you have enough time to watch this lecture, ask any questions, and submit your work in a timely manner. The first question is, what is the difference between a thesis statement and a purpose statement? Earlier in our presentation, we addressed these 2 types of statements, so please make sure you distinguish the difference between the 2 statements. Then, how would you cite the following source in your outline in APA format? This would be an in-text citation. How would you cite it? If the author's name is Joseph Valenzano, the year of publication is 2019, and the title is Communication Pathways. Does this source look familiar? Well, it's our textbook for CST 110. So let's practice APA formatting by citing our textbook in APA form. Once you are done answering these 2 questions, submit them on Canvas and continue with the upcoming assignment. For discussion board number 2, remember your response is now due on the 20th, and you'll want to brainstorm a list of 5 topics. Each topic you must identify whether it is an object, a process, an event, or a concept. Then you'll want to make sure you write 2 to 3 sentences explaining your interest or your audience's potential interest towards your topic. Again, each topic must include a short summary regarding why you're interested or why your audience is interested in it. You will write your list of topics in a list form instead of long paragraphs. So go ahead and enter the topic, identify, and then write a short description. Part 2 is a critical element of our discussion board because this helps us start the research process and selecting our final topic. This will be due on March 21st, and remember you have been assigned to a team for discussion board number 2. What you will do is identify which topic interests you based on your peers' reactions. So let's say that you are examining Connor's response. Then you'll go ahead and talk about which topic intrigues you based on Connor's reaction. And you'll go ahead and offer suggestions about how Connor can adapt the speech to the audience. For instance, if Connor is interested in talking about building good credit, then you may go ahead and help Connor understand why you care to learn about that topic. On the other hand, let's say that you are responding to Cento. If you are responding to Cento, then again, you will help identify which topics appeal to your interest. So if you're interested in talking about job interviewing, then you'll let Cento know, hey, I like the topic where you discuss job interviewing, specifically creating first impressions. And then you may talk about what supporting materials will help you understand that topic. So you might use words like, I encourage you to use statistics, specifically how many people are currently unemployed, so that we can understand how this speech can help us in the long run. Now, you can also go ahead and provide feedbacks on sources. So let's think of another classmate. If we're looking at Kenneth's response, then again, you'll let Kenneth know which topics interest you and then provide some sample sources that Kenneth can use in their speech. So for Kenneth's presentation, let's say that indeed he is interested in researching the dangers associated with caffeine. You may have recently found an article related to the dangers of caffeine, so you can include that source in your response, and Kenneth can consider using it when Kenneth is citing his source and writing his speech proposal. Altogether, the goal here is to engage with our classmates and help us start building our speech outline. So remember, you must write 1 paragraph for each teammate, and part 1 will be worth 10 points, part 2 will be worth 15 points for this week. If you're ready to start writing your response for discussion board number 2, you may go ahead and pause at this point. Otherwise, if you're ready to start the research process, let me give you a brief description of what your informative speech plan looks like. Remember, your informative speech plan is going to be due by, this should say 3/31. So cross this out, it should say 3/31. Your annotated bibliography will be due by the 31st. The first part you will need to do is provide an explanation of your topic selection and why the audience may be interested in this topic. So in this case, you may go ahead and mention how you're interested in talking about the dangers associated with energy drinks, and then explain to us why you selected this topic. Did you observe that your classmates consume energy drinks? Or perhaps you went ahead and gathered information based on the feedback you received from your discussion board number 2 response. Afterward, help us understand why the audience will be interested and how you can adapt your message to your CST 110 peers. In part 2, you'll go ahead and write your thesis and purpose statements. So if you need help writing those statements, let me know. Otherwise, remember the content from this presentation to start writing your 2 statements. These 2 statements will become a part of your introduction, and we will revisit them next week in our video meeting on writing your outline. For part 3, you'll create your annotated bibliography, and this is where you will cite your sources in APA format. Remember, you want to have at least 5 sources for this assignment, and you want to have a variety of sources. So they shouldn't just be websites or journal articles. They should have a variety of both websites, articles, books, magazine articles. So you should have at least 2 different sources to demonstrate that you know how to critically analyze a variety of sources for your presentation. Finally, for each source, you will need to write 2 paragraphs. A summary paragraph which captures the content you learned through that source, And I want you to give details in the summary paragraph. We don't want broad details like, I found great facts in this book. That's not going to help you put together your speech outline. So the more detail you give with the facts, the stories, the examples, the easier it will be to transfer that information into your outline. And the evaluation of the source. Remember to look at the credibility of the author. Why can we trust what the author has to say? How recent is it? Is the information consistent and unbiased? And how can you use that content in your presentation? By evaluating the source, you're able to critically analyze the information and you're able to start building your verbal citations for your speech. So again, this will be due on March 31st. If you're ready to get started, you're welcome to do so in the upcoming days. Now at this point, we covered information about selecting and researching our speech topic. Remember that we want to make sure we focus on the invention and arrangement steps for the upcoming days. Select a topic that appeals to both your audience members and to your own interest as well. As you start researching the topic, remember to select credible sources and supporting materials that your audience members will be able to understand. If you have questions with APA formatting, remember I'm here to help you out. Even though this is a remote learning experience, remember I'm still here to assist you with the speech writing process and any other questions or concerns you may have. If you have a question about remote learning for your other classes or how academic advising works in this new setting, then you're welcome to send me those concerns too. I'd like to leave you with the following message for our presentation. Always remember, the best speakers take their audience on a journey, but you just have to make sure it's somewhere that your audience members want to go. As you determine the final speech topic, focus on that element. Where will your audience members want to go with you with your presentation? And I hope that piece of information will help you make the best choice for your informative speech. Thank you so much for watching this video lecture today, and I look forward to seeing you next week during our virtual meeting at 12:30 p.m. on Thursday. Take care, everyone, and be safe.